Bhagavate. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So, thank you for joining. We wanted to seek the blessings of Radha Damodara, Radha Shyamsundar, Radha Madhav, Krishna Balaram, Bal Gopal, Gaunita, Srila Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj, and the assembled devotees. So, we're continuing with Damodara Lila. And yesterday we talked about how Mother Yashoda was keeping an eye out for Krishna, at the same time putting the milk on the stove and churning the butter. So, continuing with the Srimad Bhagavatam, this one is chapter, so it's canto 10, chapter 9, text number 4.
Stanya kama ashadya mathanatim jananim hari gritvadadim manthanam nyashayadat ritam avahan. Translation: while Mother Yashoda was churning butter, Lord Krishna, desiring to drink the milk of her breast, appeared before her, and in order to increase her transcendental pleasure, he caught hold of the churning rod and began to prevent her from churning.
So, this is a very nice picture of baby Krishna. Yashoda Mai greeted her Lala. Oh, my beloved son, you are awake. How wonderful. But she continued to churn. Krishna placed his other hand on the churning rope and made it known that he wants to drink her milk. Charmed by her son, Yashoda Mai embraced her darling son, placed her hands under his arms and raised Krishna to her lap. This is a very nice painting. Gazing for a moment at the indescribable beauty of her son, she drank that beauty through her eyes and was about to nurse when she stopped and pondered. Why does my son look so different, so beautiful in ways I've never seen before? So this is the glory of Krishna. His qualities are always increasing. His beauty is always increasing. Everything about him is always increasing at every moment. Even he himself cannot grasp the increase in the qualities that he has. One time he looked in the on the floor tile in Dwarka, and when he looked, he saw himself and he was thinking, who is this amazing person? So his qualities are always increasing. He's not even aware of it. Has he changed in some mysterious way? Or is it that I have never really looked at him so deeply? Is this really Krishna? It appeared that he was made of blue lotus and scattered with different beautiful flowers. She drank in the nectar of his face. Krishna raised the soft petals of his hand and touched her cheeks, so being assertive, and said, Mother, I am hungry. Reprimanding herself, reprimanding herself, why she was being so selfish, enjoying her son instead of serving him. She said,
Poor thing, my little darling. You must be hungry after sleeping so long.
Krishna had been fasting all night, and he said, I am very hungry, and I am very angry. Yashoda Mai, smoothing Krishna's hair with his hands, asked,
why are you angry?
Because you are churning butter instead of giving me your milk. If you hadn't stopped, I would have broken the churn.
Oh dear, but darling, the butter is meant for you.
That may be, but the butter is for later, and I am hungry now. Yashoda Mai, marveling at his intelligence, who is only 3 years old, teased him.
Then why are you talking? Why don't you drink?
The milk poured out from her breast into the Lord's mouth. Sometimes a little milk will spill from the edge of Krishna's mouth, and Yashoda Mai would try to wipe the drops from his face under the edge of with the edge of her veil. So now we're looking at the next text, number 5. Okay.
Tankam arudam apayat sthanam sneha snutam sa smitam ekshati mukham atraptam utrija javana sayayo utsi jamane vayasi tvadrashtite. Translation. Mother Yashoda then embraced Krishna, allowed him to sit down on her lap, and began to look upon the face of the Lord with great love and affection. Because of her intense affection, milk was flowing from her breast. But when she saw that the milk pan on the oven was boiling over, she immediately left her son to take care of the overflowing milk, although the child was not yet fully satisfied with drinking the milk of his mother's breast.
So she's giving him breast milk. Seeing the mark of Srivatsa and the sign of Lakshmi on his chest, she would try to wipe them away as well, thinking them to be milk. But when she wouldn't be able to do so, she would whisper, You are such a
mysterious little boy.
In the mundane world, the infant is the recipient and the mother, the benefactor. But in this sacred exchange, the original maternal relationship, Krishna fully reciprocated with Yashoda Mai, giving as much as he was taking and perhaps even more. What was Krishna giving? How was he doing it? Simply by Krishna's touch, Yashoda Mai's bliss increased immeasurably. Krishna also entered his mother's heart, wherein she not only left the bliss he was enjoying, but also the love for her that he was radiating. So it's a real reciprocation of love between mother and child. As a result, they both became ensnared in a kind of spiritual rivalry in which each spontaneously outdid the other in mutual offering of ever-ascending love, culminating in each thinking the following.
I shall die if I am ever separated from him.
How could I ever live without her? At that very moment, the personified prem, that's the love that is given the authority by Krishna to act independently, to increase the spiritual transactions between the devotee and the Lord. So this prema is a personality, a special person designated by the Lord to increase the relationships between Krishna and his devotees. So she prepared to open a new chapter in the transcendental loving pastime between the eternal mother and the divine child, a chapter which would be glorified by countless sages in countless books and give tremendous joy to the devotees of the Lord. This pastime is so important and cherished. It is celebrated for a full month, not just a day. So this is quite powerful. There was suddenly an emergency. The personality of milk saddened to think that Krishna will not require her service. After all, how can anyone compare? How can one compare to the ambrosial milk flowing from Mother Yashoda's breasts into the lotus mart of the Lord? So the point is that in the spiritual world, everything has existence. There's nothing mundane. In this material world, we have objects which are inanimate. They're not functioning. They're not alive. But in spiritual world, everything is alive, including the milk which was being boiled for the pleasure of Krishna. And the milk was thinking, well, what's my point of my existence if I'm competing with Mother Yashoda here? And there's no point living. I might as well jump into the fire. In desperation, the milk decided that she could not live any longer if her service to Krishna is made redundant, and started to boil over and jump into the fire. The maid had put too much wood on the fire. The stove became too hot and the milk was boiling over. Yashoda Mai saw the milk about to overflow. She lifted Krishna from her lap and placed him on the floor. With that, she raced off to the kitchen. So this starts a chain of events which are forever glorified. Krishna was shocked, feeling hungry and neglected. He bit his lower lip and stamped his feet in anger. After fasting all night, here he was, teased with a few drops of milk and then abruptly deprived of more. His stomach was pained with hunger. At the same time, he was deprived of his mother's love. Double whammy. Anger arose within him. He began to growl like a lion cub. After all, he is Nrsimhadev. Philosophers have argued over many debates and books whether Yashodamai did the right thing. She had to attend to the milk quickly and would have been encumbered by her son if she carried him with her. She could have dropped Krishna if she had carried him hurriedly to the kitchen. Is it reasonable to abandon one's hungry son for a pot of milk, especially when we are surrounded by Braj's milk-soaked pastures? And is this reasonable that this act was perpetrated by one who is known as the presiding deity of affectionate mothers? So these are the different arguments. Others argue that for Yashodamai and Nanda Baba, their homes, their bodies, their relatives, their lives are fully dedicated to Krishna. They consider everything to be his. Similarly, the milk is meant for Krishna. It is even more important than Krishna. Wow, how is that possible? Well, Yashodamai decided that Krishna's interest would be best served by serving the milk, even at the cost of him being hungry. So in that sense, the milk is more important than the savor of her own milk to Krishna. Sometimes, so we have the same issue sometimes, right? We're confronted with two equally important things one must attend to at the cost of the other. One must attend to one at the cost of the other. So for a devotee like Yashodamai, the proper intuition as to how to make such a decision is given to her by the Lord in the heart. How can she be at fault? However extraordinary her actions may appear to us. So it's a huge debate. Was she right? She was serving the Lord directly with her milk. But she stopped that service. She put him down. She stopped her savor. So there's an argument that that's not the correct way to serve the Lord. But there's a counter argument that she stopped that service in order to perform another service, which was considered more important, and that was saving the milk on the stove, which would have been used to serve Krishna another day, another time. And it wasn't that she was going to abandon the boy. She just wanted to temporarily stop giving him the milk in order to save the situation. And then later she would return and continue with her service of giving Krishna milk. So was it correct for her to drop Krishna and attend to the milk? Most commentators will agree that it is reasonable behavior. And definitely, as it says here, the Lord has given her the inspiration to do that. And Prema personified has also sanctioned this to happen. Otherwise, we would not be seeing the Lila or witnessing the Lila that we are about to. We must remember that in these pastimes, Krishna is simultaneously fully cognizant of his Godhead as he is absorbed in his identity as a child. So this is very hard to understand. In this situation where Krishna appears as a child, he really is a child. But at the same time, he's God, fully aware of everything that's happening. It is not that Krishna's consciousness oscillates between omniscience and innocence. It's not, therefore, that sometimes he's a child, sometimes he's God. No. They're parallel states of existence in which neither obstruct the unique mood of the other, just as the Ganga and Yamuna rivers flow in the same riverbed without mixing. So this is really interesting. This is in Prayag. I think I've said Varanasi, and this is Prayag, Allahabad. And we see the Yamuna is black and the Ganga is golden, neither mixing with each other. They keep their path. So similarly, the child in Krishna and the Supreme Personality of Godhead both exist in parallel and neither mix with each other, but both are realities. Krishna is really feeling the neglect of a child. At the same time, he knows he's the Supreme. So this is really inconceivable, very hard for us to understand. This is where prema, the personification of love, which has been ordered by Krishna to increase the Lila between mother and son, plays her role. And her role is basically to allow Krishna to understand, to behave like a child, like a baby. She covers up Krishna's divinity, but that divinity is still present in full. So, let's do one more.
So this is verse 6. Sanjata Gopa Spuritarunazaram Sandasya Dabe Tadimanta Bhajanam Pitva Mrusas Sur Trishat Asmanaraho Jagasahayam Antaram Gataha. Translation: being very angry and biting his reddish lips with his teeth, Krishna, with false tears in his eyes, broke the container of yogurt with a piece of stone. Then he entered a room and began to eat the freshly churned butter in a solitary place.
Yashodamai demonstrated the quality exhibited by an exceptionally qualified devotee. That to serve Krishna, devotees would agree to be separated from him. This is really very powerful. She had Krishna in her hands. She could have just let the milk flow. Doesn't matter. So much milk anyway. There's 900,000 cows that Nandmaba has. There's no shortage of milk. But she did the most amazing thing. She separated herself from the Lord to increase the service that she provides for him later, and to engage others in the service. Only because it pleased him would Yashodamai let Krishna herd calves in the forest at such a young age, right? So she did so many different ways of seva by being separated from him. Only because Krishna wanted to deliver Vasudev and Devaki would the Brajbasis allow him to go to Mathura. Similarly, Prabhupada, he left Vrindavan, his beloved Vrindavan. He left all of that to go to the West. How incredible is that? When there was no Krishna consciousness whatsoever. Yet he left the home of Krishna to go to the home of Maya. How extraordinary is that? Unbelievable, actually. It's just incredible. Greatest devotee in the world, ever, Prabhupada. While separation between lovers is generally painful, it was different with Krishna and the Brajbasis. When Krishna was distant from the Brajbasis, externally they behaved as if they were being poisoned. However, the internal reality, what the Brajbasis felt, was entirely different. When separation appeared devastating, it actually caused feelings of unprecedented bliss. This is, again, very hard for us to contemplate because we are not at the level of these amazing devotees, Brajbasis. Externally, they would feel pain from the separation from Krishna, but internally, because they were constantly remembering Krishna in separation, their bliss actually increased because their anxiety for Krishna increased their connection to Krishna. And that connection to Krishna is so important. And that's what gives the devotee pleasure, because they are even more intensely connected with the Supreme Lord. Even though externally they appear to be in distress. And the same applies to Krishna as well, which is the most amazing thing. When he was in the forest, Krishna's heart yearned for his mother's touch. When he was in Mathura, Krishna would cry for the Brijvasis. When he was sleeping beside Rukmini, he would call out Radha's name. At those times, Krishna's suffering was so extreme that it frightened his associates. So can we think about Krishna's suffering? How can the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who's in charge of everything, who controls everything, how can he be suffering? Well, this is the suffering that one endures when one is away from one's beloved. Yet at the same time, within himself, Krishna felt unprecedented happiness and bliss. Why? Because he was so connected to his devotees. Overpowering heartache, intense longing, and unrelenting hope were catalysts that transformed his suffering into ecstasy. Very, very hard for us to understand, let alone imagine it. So now Krishna was feeling separation due to neglect. And from those thoughts emerged feelings of anger of love. This, together with the knowledge that Yashodamai's experience of bliss out of separation from her darling son would exceed his own bliss. His mounting anger finally erupted. A shower of hot, angry tears issued from Krishna's lotus eyes. Were his tears real or false? From scriptures, we know that the Lord is always satisfied within himself. He's known as Atma Rama. And that he knows neither hunger nor thirst. So is it not contradictory to say that Krishna is hungry and angry? So he is now pretending to be dissatisfied and angry in order to nourish the paternal love of Yashodamai. So the learned opinion of the Vaishnava gurus is that Krishna is not acting. Dependence on his parents is a feature of his essential identity. So this is integral part of him, to have Yashoda and Nand there as his parents. Their love, he depends on it. He exists on their love. This is the eternally independent, omniscient, omnipresent, whatever the omnis you want to add into that. But he is dependent on the love of his parents, at the same time being omniscient. From that dependence sprouts the inspiration by which he becomes the father of all living entities, and hence their maintainer, Janata. Krishna is the original feature of Godhead, not an expansion of Narayan. Therefore, whatever moods and gestures we see him express are spontaneous, not a show. It's not a show. No, this is real. Krishna was looking for something to vent his anger on. He managed to find a pointed stone, which he had brought from the courtyard into the house the previous day. He used that stone to crack the churn and break apart. There he is. And sense of victory. I've shown my anger. Casting a guilty glance in the direction of Yashodamai, he noted that she had not heard him and was still preoccupied in the kitchen. Pleased with his antics, Krishna had a mischievous smile on his face. So let's stop there and continue tomorrow. Breaking of the pots. This mischievous smile is such an amazing feature of Krishna, which really captivates the devotees' hearts. Any comments, any questions?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Sitaram Prabhu.
Yes, these topics these lines and the verses, it is very, very good to hear, because it it makes me cry when I hear all these things concerning Krishna and his devotees, or whatever it is, Prabhuji. It is very good. I was reading all these verses, which which make me amazing, like all these things which happened when Krishna was on this earth. Hare Krishna, Prabhu, sorry.
Thank you. Yes, no, absolutely. It's just so amazing when we go through this. Thank you for your feedback. Thank you for participating. Always participate. Appreciate it. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu.
So let's stop there. Damodara Lila ki jai.